Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Now we're getting to the moment that we've all been waiting for. WandaVision has officially...
He was ready for it.
He was ready for that one. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. It's the weekly adventure we've all been on. So now that it's officially wrapped on Disney Plus, Nick, we'll toss it over to you. What were your kind of like your reactions to the series as a whole, and then we'll talk about details in a little bit.
So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun to watch week to week and to be like, oh, what's going on here? Oh, what is that? And what does this mean? You know, I thought it was a fun ride. You know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the way it started. I enjoyed the way it ended. It was fun.
Okay, Ernesto, what were your thoughts?
I think overall the show was great. I think I liked how they taught people how to watch week to week again. Like that because that was the main thing, you know, because then it spiraled into conspiracy theory, you know, obviously, and you know, one of the main things is, you know, how many theories did we hear about that did not come true?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I thought the way they told the story was great. I liked that I was confused at first. Because I remember after watching the first 3 episodes, I was like, there's just something about it. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I like it.
Yeah.
It was really clever. Like, you know, starting in the 50s and then all those key elements being in each episode and then building up to the finale, and even like with the naming of the episode, like the episode 9 was called the series finale.
Yeah.
And then the one before was called Previously On, and like how they were able to tie that into what was happening into the series. So, yeah. I mean, overall it was really well done. The one thing I'm really disappointed about, I guess is maybe just me, like I could have sworn there was a theory about, you know, Doctor Strange. I mean, we could talk about theories specifically in a couple minutes, but I think the one that just hurt my soul was that I was really expecting to see Doctor Strange, and it just didn't happen. He was mentioned by name as not even Doctor Strange. It was just the Sorcerer, just talking about the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
At the end of the series finale, but it was really well. I think Elizabeth Olsen had a really great character arc. They found a way to make it about, it wasn't just about superheroes. It was a story about grief and dealing with death, and just it was really well done. I was very pleasantly surprised. And I liked how they used it in a very smart way to set up the rest of the MCU. Like we got a lot of setup for this phase within this series.
Yeah, I think, you know, and we'll definitely talk about expectations and theories in a little bit, because honestly, that's what the headlines after the finale came out. It was like, that was like
that one meme.
in floods. Yeah, it was just a whole bunch of floods of like, oh my God, this thing that I thought didn't come true. I was like, yeah, that's an expectation, buddy. But either way, you know, if we're outside of the expectation conversation, I also really enjoyed it. I thought it was a bold, unique take on something that did not need to be that. Like, you could have told a story about grief, or you could have just told us, you know, an action adventure series about Wanda's next story, or like, you know, her part of her life. But they decided to take us on a weird journey that was about, like, that offered a lot of mystery, but then when you watch it, it has nothing to do with the mystery at all. Like, this isn't like, you can view it as a mystery, but there is no mystery. Like, what you're seeing is what you're getting. But it was perceived that there was something bigger happening, and kind of, yes, there was, but it was like underlying themes that was happening throughout, and it was told in a very unique way. that I found very fascinating throughout. And obviously, the three of us all know that we were talking about it week to week about what's this, what's that, and because of the TV angle that it gave some sort of like, I'm watching a TV about a TV show within a TV show. And so like there's a lot of meta-ness that came with it, and it just became enjoyable to watch. And, you know, despite how you feel about the ending, I really enjoyed the series as a whole. And it did, you know, launch into what the future of what the MCU is going to be. And I'll kind of get into detail a little bit how I specifically felt about the ending. But overall, I really liked the show. It was definitely better than a lot of other shows I've seen, you know, out there. It definitely gave us a rounded story. But yeah, so let's talk about some of the details here. Ernesto, you specifically mentioned the first 3 episodes. A lot of people were concerned that it was a little bit too slow, but did you kind of enjoy, like right now, because we were getting nothing. Like we kind of went into the show cold turkey, and the first 3 episodes didn't really give us anything. And so was there a part of you kind of frustrated also leaning into the week-to-week viewing?
Well, I remember we kind of talked about it a little bit, but did they release the first 2? I thought it was the first 2 at first.
No, they did. Yeah.
The first week, I definitely got confused before, but they released the first 2 episodes on the first week. And I heard a rumor that it was supposed to be the first 3. The first 3 episodes were supposed to come out, but they only released the first 2 in the first week.
So I'm going to be referring to this podcast I listened to that had the director on, the Matt Shankman. He was on.
Oh, I think I know what. I think we listened to the same one. Then.
Yeah. Is it Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
okay.
Kevin. Yeah, I listened to that one.
Did you listen to his episode with the director?
Yeah, that's the. Well, I specifically listened to that episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't listen to it normally. No offense to Kevin Smith. I love Kevin Smith, but I listened to that episode just because it was Matt Shankman was on there.
Yes. So with that episode, they were talking about how, yes, you're right, it was supposed to be 3, but because of production, if they released the first 3, they would not have met the deadline to end where Disney wanted it to end. Like they would not have enough time to finish. So that's why they only released the first 2. And then they were able to, you know, they gave them an extra week to finish and wrap up everything they needed to do. So that was kind of interesting that, you know, that kind of transpired. But it was originally supposed to be the first 3. So the fact that technically we had to wait 2 weeks to get answers, like, what were your, Ernesto, like, your feelings toward that?
I just remember in the beginning being like, I was like, well, I mean, we didn't really get a lot from the first 2 episodes. Like I was saying, like, at first I didn't really like it, but then I was like, well, you know, then we're getting the week to week. It's just that I wanted more. It wasn't even that I was upset. It was just that I wanted more, and I was, you know, it's like I wanted all my episodes now. Yeah. I don't want to wait every week.
Yeah.
But I liked, you know, I really like being confused, because that means you're pulling the wool over my eyes. Like you're actually making me think, because I mean, obviously we watch a lot of content, so a lot of times I can watch it and I can pick up almost immediately, like, kind of where it's going, at least in the general direction. But like when the first 2 episodes started, I'll go, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like I don't know what's happening. Like we're in the 50s and now we're in the 60s, and she created a sitcom. I mean, we had our theories, and I feel like the one that we had, which kind of came true, was the like them using kind of like a House of M kind of thing, her creating that alternate reality to build this in. And it wasn't even necessarily the whole thing, just maybe the idea of creating that alternate universe based off of past trauma. Yeah. But I mean, it was great. I really enjoyed the week to week. It was a little annoying at first, but then it kind of reminded me, it's like, oh, this is what it was like to like look forward. It gave you something to look forward to at the end of the week, you know?
Nick, where were your kind of thoughts on that whole like first couple of episodes, and your feelings toward that?
I was definitely intrigued. Like the first 2 episodes had that, you know, Nick at Night feel, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, it like really brought me back to, you know, when I was younger, watching the reruns of I Love Lucy and I Dream of Jeannie, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then there was was it the first episode, whatever episode they had the dinner party. I think it was the first one.
It was the first one.
And the boss is like choking forever, and I'm just like, okay, this is gonna be real weird. This is gonna be a weird show. Okay, I like this.
Yeah, I just remember, kind of, Ernesto, what you were saying, like kind of being a little, you get that feeling that it was thorough. I really feel that if we originally got the first 3 episodes, it would have sprung board into like, all right, I don't have to wait too long to get the story, because at the end of the 3rd episode, Monica Rambeau got pushed out, and like all those sword agents were coming to her aid.
Yep.
So I think if it would have ended, and after we've like binged the first 3 episodes, then that would have lent itself to like, oh, okay, things are happening. Let's move on to the next week, as opposed to getting, we got the 2nd episode ended with like the transition from black and white to color. So that was kind of like our big, all right, now we got to wait another week, but we're still living in this world. But
I mean, now thinking back, I feel like it was a better move for them to just release the first 2, because if you had gotten those first 3 and you ended with the Monica Rambeau, you would have felt like, all right, this is Marvel. Like, the Marvel show is stopping now. I felt like when you get the first 2, they really hone in on what's happening between Wanda and Vision, as opposed to what's happening and how is this affecting the MCU. I feel like that's the mass difference between episode 2 and 3.
I like that. Where are your thoughts on that? Do you kind of like where they ended 2, or you prefer ending on 3?
I liked that they ended on 2 just because you get the transition to color in the next episode, and I feel like it would be a weird juxtaposition to be like, okay, black and white, color, because then you're gonna get color in the 3rd episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. And then we get episode 4, which was basically a rehash of what we see in the first 3 episodes, just under a different lens. I think for me, I really enjoy that episode. Also, with Monica Rambeau, the episode kicked off with her reappearing from the blimp, is what they're calling it. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because it's been so long since we got anything Marvel, and they really haven't talked about the world out, after Endgame. And so the fact that we were able to get a little bit of a taste of that, I really enjoyed seeing that in episode 4.
Yeah, it really makes you think about like when people like just reappear where they were after the snap or the blip. Like where did other people, like, what if there was like somebody in an airplane? What if, what were the other people, like, what happened to other people? I just like, it just makes you think about like where other people were, and like, do they just end up sitting, like coming back in the airplane? Are they in the air? Are they, like if you are on a boat, do you just show up in the middle of the water? Or are you on that boat, wherever that boat may be?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think that if you're on a plane, because we've seen it in with WandaVision, and we saw it with even Spider-Man: Far From Home. Like there are like band players in the court, and they just kind of reappeared, and there was like a funny moment on that end. But on the other extreme, you're talking people that were on a plane or a boat or doing something completely different, and all of a sudden, like, what if all of a sudden you just came back and then whatever was there is not? Like you can be in between a wall for all you know. So it's interesting how they decided to like dive into that, but I really like that we, like, for me watching episode 4, and like that's how we kicked off, and it was a cold open too. Mm-hmm. Like, and then it was after that, then we got like the Marvel logo, and I was like, oh damn, here we go. This is what I'm talking about. This is Marvel right here. But yeah, and then let's talk about that surprise cameo that made the internet go berserk. Let's talk about not Chris Evans. I'm sorry.
Chris Evans showed up?
No. Let's talk about Evan Peters, Nick. It kind of like, give us your thoughts on when he appeared, and then let's talk about it as a whole, like where they ended up with his character.
So I was so excited to see Evan Peters show up at the end of that episode, because in my mind, we're opening up the multiverse.
Yeah.
Here's the multiverse, baby. It's, he's from, he was famously Quicksilver, Peter Maximoff in the X-Men Fox series.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, here we go. We're starting to bring the X-Men over.
And then
yeah.
Then it didn't happen.
And then it didn't happen. But I still have hope. Because in the episode that Jimmy Woo shows up in, the first episode, I guess it's the third episode, the fourth episode?
Fourth episode, yeah.
The fourth episode where Jimmy Woo shows up and he says he had been looking for someone that was in the witness protection program.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm holding out hope that maybe he's, underneath this suit, this fake name, Ralph Boner. because think about it. Don't you think that Fox Quicksilver, he would pick a name like Ralph Boner?
Yeah. No,
he's kind of a jokey, silly character.
Yeah.
And I could see him going, well, I want my name to be Boner then.
Yeah. No, I can. That totally checks out. Ernesto, what were your thoughts on Evan Peters and the whole debate?
I mean, it was they pulled a good wool over everybody's eyes. Like, they knew exactly what they were doing when they did it. But it was good. I didn't really have any issues with it. I would have liked it to have been a more direct link to what Nick was saying with the Fox universe. But maybe, even if that's not him, what if this opens up the multiverse and then it's just, him from another universe? Like, him from that universe can come over now. Then maybe the one who's in this world is actually just a guy.
Yeah, honestly, I'm perfectly okay with it. Has nothing to do with the multiverse, with the Fox X-Men thing. I'm actually completely fine with it just being what it is, because you like it or not, this is exactly what happened with Iron Man 3 and the Mandarin.
In the Mandalorian, oh yeah.
Well, the Mandarin, not the Mandalorian. Yeah.
The Mandarin.
The Mandarin, yeah, with Trevor. Played by Ben Kingsley, who was not the Mandalorian. Wow, now you have me doing
Mandarin.
it. The Mandarin, who is not the Mandarin. And that's exactly what this was, in a sense, because it was playing with your expectation that, again, Marvel knew what they were doing when you put Evan Peters right there. Like, that the internet is going to go berserk on this. But my only problem with that whole scene was that we didn't even utilize Evan Peters at all after the Halloween episode.
Agreed.
Like we didn't even okay, so if he was meant to be a distraction to Wanda, wasn't a big one. It wasn't
not really.
It was just I feel like they underutilized him for what he was, and I don't know, I feel like, if anything, I didn't care that he wasn't part of anything bigger. I didn't really care that he was part of, he could have had the same amount of screen time in the story, but I felt like that I wish they would have used him more as that, because in that same podcast that we listened to, Nick, it was the director talking about how, let's see here, I'm trying to find it in my notes. Oh, that's right. He said, so the director was asked a question about Evan Peters, and he said when asked why Evan Peters was cast as fake Pietro, a.k.a. Ralph Boner, he said it was fun to play with expectations. One of the favorite moments of the MCU was the fake Mandarin in Iron Man 3. He said that the fans who wanted the multiverse, the X-Men, and even the Mandarin, they're all coming. You know that they're coming. So, you just got to be patient with it. So, obviously, he's playing with that expectation. Mm-hmm. He said, as for Evan Peters, he said we originally were going to bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson, who played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. But they technically already brought back a loved one with Vision, so they thought that they were going to have fun with it and had an opportunity to have fun with it. So what's more interesting? What does grief does to you that allows you to accept a face that is unfamiliar to us, and a role that's to a role with that, even though we know something is off. So basically he wanted to play with, Wanda's grief. That's a stage of grief is bargaining with yourself. And so Wanda wants her brother back too, so she's willing to bargain with herself to accept that this is her brother, even though this isn't the face that she remembered. They also played upon the fact that this is a sitcom, and sitcoms famously get recasted. People famously get recasted all the time. Ernesto, and Viv and Fresh Prince, Ernesto. So that happens, all the time. And also, you never, people, people also come in and play famous relatives for like 1 or 2 episodes and never return again. So like I think they're kind of feeding into that reality, as well as Wanda's grief, and making her believe that this was the real Pietro was all part of Wanda's grief and journey. So like understanding that aspect of it, I get it. I understand where he's coming from. But even with all that being said, I still didn't feel that. I still didn't feel like that there was like a huge impact that he gave to Wanda. Like I felt like obviously we were focused on acceptance of loss with Vision, but I didn't really feel that with like acceptance of loss for her brother, if that's what they were going for. Yeah. So I'm perfectly fine if we never see Evan Peters again, and that was just a joke. I just wish that in the context of what the director wanted to do with this, I didn't think they 100% did that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think they 100% did what they wanted to do. I don't know. But also like you're like people's expectations. My expectations were like, oh, this specific actor is playing this specific role, and it's just like it's hard not to connect those two dots.
Oh, absolutely. And also,
if you're a Marvel fan,
Yeah. And also, I mean, don't make me wrong. It's a fun cameo. I'll tell you what. That was like the best surprise of this entire show. Am I wrong on that, or did you?
Oh yeah, that was the greatest surprise of the show, I think.
Yeah.
But especially because leading up to that moment, it was really intense. Like Wanda and Vision were like literally flying around the living room. He was like in the middle of confronting her. Yeah. About this world that she created, and then her fucking brother shows up.
Yeah, exactly. And also like we see the silver hair. And so, like, oh my god, like, I was even excited, like, oh shit, they brought back Aaron Taylor Johnson, and then they cut to what's in front. You're like, no, they didn't. No, no.
They lied.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know you, and then everyone's like, what's going on? And then like you get their whiteboard out, and it's like, all right, here we go. Megan, strap in. I'm sorry. I gotta explain this.
Yeah,
now.
I had to like explain that to my wife too, because I was like, oh no, look what they did, and my wife was like, what? And I was like. Hold on.
Yeah, it's like
important.
Yeah, like they brought the guy from American Horror Story. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Why is he important?
But yeah, I guess to ask another question, would you have preferred Aaron Taylor Johnson show up in that moment, or was it still better to see Evan Peters? Ernesto, I'll start with you.
I think it was better, kind of just for the same reason why he did it. I think it would have been too much. It would have been too much for it. So I think what they did was perfect.
Nick?
Yeah, I mean, like Ernesto said, I think it was perfect. If it was, the other guy, I don't know if it would have been as exciting, Yeah.
Like, it was almost like, oh, I expected that.
Yeah.
To a degree. Maybe you didn't see it coming, but you're like, oh no, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously they definitely got a shock value to it as well. There was another thing that I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, here we go. That kick-ass line that a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That was all improvised, and nobody put 2 and 2 together when that happened, according to the director.
That's funny.
I mean, honestly though, like it's weird how our nerd minds kind of go on that tangent. Of like, oh, Kick-Ass, Aaron Taylor Johnson, they were both in the movie, and then like, and like that line was improvised, and nobody working that set put 2 and 2 together. Really, nobody.
You didn't have enough nerds on here then.
I guess not. But I thought that was interesting that like no one put the connection together until the episode aired, and like people were making that a big thing. So moving on from Evan Peters, let's talk about Monica Rambeau. And, kind of we got we got an origin story of another superhero. Ernesto, what'd you feel about her arc?
Well, it felt very CW backdoor pilot to me. Well, I mean, they did the same thing with The Mandalorian. It's like they found a way to introduce these characters without having to give them their own series, without having to put the, like we don't need that again. Like, when she comes out, now she can just start as her own character, like in her own world, and she already has powers. Like we don't need all this, dog and pony show about what happened. Like if you want to go see it, then you got to go watch WandaVision.
Yeah. So were you okay with that?
Oh yeah, I'm okay with it. Because maybe Disney and Marvel, maybe they know how to do it right, so that it's not gonna be. Well, I guess you know what? I take that back because it's like I liked the Flash. If it wasn't for him being introduced on Arrow, I never would have watched. I never would have watched it. So I guess
point.
It's good. I just don't want to see it. I just don't want them to overdo it. Like I'm starting to see that it's a trend. Like they did it with Ahsoka and The Mandalorian and Boba Fett. They did it. Are they gonna call her Photon? Like what is her actual superhero name?
That's a good question.
I think it is Photon.
I think you're right. Yeah.
But I think Monica Rambeau was a couple different.
I think she was Captain Marvel names at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with Monica Rambeau, Ernesto, you do make a good point of like, we can definitely see a trend here. I think, honestly, I prefer this version of it than opposed to seeing an adult version of her in Captain Marvel 2 and then her having her origin story there. By putting her in WandaVision, I think we're able to get, we're able to enjoy the character more a little bit. We can see that rise with it. And then it's like, all right, if you want to see more, stay tuned. Because we got that kind of like the tease at the very end, one of the post-credit scenes, one of two in the finale, was that one of the Skrulls popped up and basically saying, the guy up there wants to see you, Monica. And I'm assuming she's referring to Nick Fury.
That's what you can only assume from.
Yeah.
What was that? The end game didn't have an end credit scene.
No, it was Far From Home.
For Far From Home. Yeah.
Because we thought Nick Fury was on Earth the whole time. Then you realized that he was up in space.
Been in space.
Been in
playing
that
chess,
space.
doing all the secret moves.
Yes. But yeah, no. Nick, what do you think of her origin story in WandaVision?
I thought it was cool. I definitely wasn't expecting, Monica Rambeau to show up. Period. I figured she'd show up in, Captain Marvel 2. Yeah. I didn't think she was going to show up here. I was kind of surprised.
Were you not aware of her showing up on the show? It sounds like.
No.
Yeah, because it was announced that she was going to be in it, so that wasn't a surprise to me. But
I guess I must have missed that. I don't know.
But we got we technically got two superhero origins in mixed into one, if you want to count the emerge of Scarlet Witch, which we'll get to in a second.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
Yes.
She goes, you are the Scarlet Witch, and I was like, they said it's the thing of like they said the name of the thing.
Hey, they said
the name.
But it's funny because when that moment happened, I was like, we know. Like I know that. Like what?
I was talking to a coworker, and they were telling me that one of their friends was like, she's a witch, and I was just like, wow, you're friends with a bunch of normies. They didn't know. She was like, how did this happen to me?
Let's talk about Kathryn Hahn playing Agatha Harkness and the nosy neighbor.
Amazing.
Amazing. Great really, really great acting. Like she just took it. She brought it to another level. Like she brought something extra to the series. And she just wasn't just like a one-sided villain. So that was nice that she actually had some depth. And, even though she was the one causing all the havoc in the background, it was Agatha all the time. That was great. That was beautiful.
It was Agatha all of
I like how there was already merch for that, the day after that episode aired.
Absolutely.
I was on Facebook and I was like, those socks, Agatha all along socks everywhere.
Like, damn, you guys are quick.
Yeah, not wasting no time.
Nope. What do you think about her character? Like, obviously, she was the nosy neighbor, and I think a lot of people already felt like she was something, and it wasn't really much of a surprise at the end of the day where she ended up being the villain. But like when that moment happened, like Agatha all along, I was like, yeah, no, I get it. Like I felt like the show made it a bigger thing than it was. Is that just me, or?
I felt it. At least for me, I kind of felt it coming.
Oh yeah, so did I. Yeah, but did you feel like the show make it like a bigger surprise than it actually was?
Yeah, it felt like it was kind of like a sitcom reveal. Like if you were really paying attention, then you would have saw it. Then you kind of saw it coming.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and then they had the whole tongue-in-cheek thing with the song. The song
Yes.
really laid it in.
Yeah, exactly.
In case you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, no, Catherine Hahn. I'm happy that they didn't kill her at the end. I would love to see more of her.
See her come back and
see her come back. I mean, basically, she feels like a Loki character. Mm-hmm. You can see that maybe there's some redeemability to her, but she's also doing things for selfish reasons. But she's also a joy to watch on screen. So you just kind of love all these things that are happening to her. But the thing that confused me a little bit was she is then trapped in the TV world or Westview, but Westview is gone. So where is she?
Westview's not.
Yeah, it's not gone.
It's not gone. It's just the hex is gone. The hex
is gone.
What's gone?
It's back to normal, but
she's trapped in
there.
that mindset.
So I see. So she's trapped as being a nosy neighbor in real life.
Yeah. So everybody else is free except for her.
I see. You see, I never.
She's gonna be she's gonna be the crazy lady in town.
Yeah, I guess so.
Dokily dokily.
And then everyone's like, "Man, Wanda, can you get rid of her, please? We're done with her."
Can you make her talk normal?
Yeah.
This is gonna be a gas.
Yeah. Can you at least put her back in the 21st century? We're tired of her in the 50s.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk about, let's move on to the origin story, the episode 8. We were kind of getting all those answers. I was actually really surprised that we kind of tied in the TV angle to all of this. That threw me for a loop as we were going back, and they kind of took it back to her childhood of how they gathered around the TV to watch all of these shows and realizing that this was a huge family connection with everything. I don't know. I thought that was really very compelling that I did not see coming. Ernesto, what'd you think about the kind of the penultimate episode leading into the finale?
Well, it was great because they found a way to bring the story full circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Also, we I guess we got a little bit more into. We also saw we've heard of this moment in Age of Ultron where she was her and her brother were under the bed, and we see a Stark missile just waiting there, and they were waiting there for days before it never went off, and they thought they were going to go off, and ultimately now we feel that she used what Agatha said a probability spell on it, hex, yeah. That you were using magic then to stop that missile from going off, and it was kind of a clever way to shoehorn in a story that we've heard of in the MCU, but now we actually see it, and also before that tied into a bigger thing that related to the show.
Yeah.
And then we got her and Strucker for Hydra, and they threw that back in there, and then the one of the best moments in the show was her and Vision talking about basically grief and really heartfelt moments, as well as leading into the finale where we get I wasn't expecting her and Vision to have that heart to heart moment at the very end as Westview is kind of collapsing, or the hex is collapsing in and of itself.
Neither was I. I was really surprised because I just thought when I hate saying this name, White Vision shows up.
Yeah.
I thought that they were gonna duke it out to and they were gonna Vision was just gonna be gone.
Yeah. But I mean, you mentioned White Vision. Where is he?
He just flew away. He was just like, peace.
He's like, I'm out of here. I got your memories. I understand.
I'm gonna go. I gotta go figure some stuff out. And
yeah.
Seems like a good way for them to just keep Vision alive within the world, or this Vision will turn into the new Ultron.
I don't know. Maybe that's interesting.
That was one of my theories that I was like, oh, he's gonna turn his core programming is Ultron. So if you strip Vision's memories and he just has his programming, then he's Ultron. So this is we're gonna see the birth of Ultron. Obviously, I was wrong because they fought, and then he just gave him his memories.
Well, it's interesting. I love what was the thing they were talking about? The ship of the Theseus. Yeah, that whole intellectual conversation, like to me, that was more exciting than the actual fight itself.
Agreed. Well, it was an intellectual battle. It was a vision
Yeah,
battle. So
it was a vision.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I don't know. I'm curious what they might do with that. Honestly, I thought that Vision was just gonna go into White Vision with the memories, and then like I'm alive now. But no, they didn't go down that route either. It's interesting to see what they end up doing with that character. Obviously, hopefully they kind of mention it, and then obviously the heartfelt moment with them talking about saying we're going to see each other again, and we thought we weren't going to see each other again, and we did. So it stands to reason that we're going to see each other again, and I think that might be in some sort of form of White Vision. At least that's my theory anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also, the kids also played a pretty big role into the show as well. I don't think that's the last we're going to see of the kids.
Yeah, that end credit scene, I feel like they're going to show up again to set up, maybe the Young Avengers or something.
That sounds about right. And, since you mentioned it, and so, like, the ending, where do you feel, we see what I think is one of the best costume reveals we've had in a long time in the MCU.
It was so good.
So good. Yeah.
The costume was amazing. I was
Yeah.
like, damn, Elizabeth Olsen looked good in that costume. It's a nice costume. And so and I think they did a really good job with it. But now, she is the Scarlet Witch. So where would you like to see this character move forward? Like, obviously we see some people in the town kind of see her negatively, and she has a hold of the Darkhold.
I mean, I would think everyone in that town sees her very negatively.
Yes,
I mean,
that's very,
was mind controlling them.
Yeah, whether she meant to or not, she was doing it. So where would you like to see her character? There's a lot of theories out there saying that she is going to be the next villain, that she, trying to control her powers. Ernesto, where would you like to see Wanda move forward, since we know that her next time is Doctor Strange too?
I feel like she's going to do something, like she's going to have another misguided episode where she's going to do something that she thinks is good, but it's actually going to cause more harm, but it's going to be so bad that it's going to cause Doctor Strange to intervene. Because I feel like Doctor Strange, because he's a Sorcerer Supreme, so and he only shows up when he has to fix world-shattering, ending things that are going to destroy the entire Marvel universe. He only gets involved when he absolutely has to. So I think maybe that's going to be the tie-in. Maybe she's gonna open up the multiverse to try to see if she can get her kids or Vision. And then when she does that, it probably opens the floodgates for everybody to cross over back and forth through the multiverse.
Okay. Nick, where you want to see the Scarlet Witch moving forward?
So I kind of hope it ties up with Spider-Man a little bit. Like,
it could.
A little bit like what Ernesto was saying. Like, maybe she opens up the multiverse, and maybe, Tom Holland's Peter Parker ends up in the New York of Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen, it kind of seems like that. I don't know. That's my personal theory on that. Is he gets dumped out into the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man universe.
I would love that. Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out how to get home. He doesn't know. He doesn't know anything.
Yeah. I can totally see. I mean, what the weird part is that technically as of right now, the release date for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is March of 2022. So basically we're going to wait a whole another year before we see Wanda, but we know that Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home, which is December of this year. So where does that all tie in together is the big question. So are we going to get a surprise appearance from the Scarlet Witch in Spider-Man 3? Possible. Unlikely, maybe.
Yeah.
Or is it going to be, how big of the multiverse is going to tie into Spider-Man, No Way Home is also the question there, and how big of an involvement Doctor Strange is going to be, and then Wanda's kind of playing into all that. So a lot of mystery left there, and that's when I kind of feel like where the show kind of ended. I felt like that, yes, we got some sort of resolution, but we also there's still, I feel like a lot of things
there's still questions.
There's still a lot of questions that weren't answered in the finale, and I felt like if people were starting, we're watching this for a beginning and an end, we technically got one, but we also left a lot of questions unanswered that we could have dived into, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, as far as the WandaVision story, the main, we got their story. Their story, I feel like we got it flushed out from start to finish. But what they did do is that they planted the seeds for a lot of different things to happen in the MCU. Because not even to mention the whole Skrulls thing or the Kree. I always get them confused.
It's the Skrulls,
Skrulls, the shapeshifters. When they got their little thing at the end. Monica Rambeau, as a superhero, like that's been set up. Vision re-entering the world, a rebuilt Vision with old Vision's memories, like that.
Yeah.
That's being released. Like there's just so many little things. If anything, this gets me excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh.
Because I'm expecting that same kind of start to finish, but also that same kind of setup energy, MCU setup energy towards Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know that Falcon Winter Soldier is going to have the same energy as WandaVision.
I was just going to say
not like what I meant, not as energy as the show. I meant like for them setting up different things within the MCU.
Okay, yeah, because I feel like it's going to be a very different show. It's going to be buddy cop, very very action heavy.
Yeah,
and I think I still think it'll be a good show, but it's going to be very different, and I'm curious to see what the nonchalant, not nonchalant, but like the
average
casual viewers who are super into WandaVision and then maybe are expecting the same thing with this other show.
Well, you bring up a really good point, Nick, because I was about to ask you guys, like, do you think that I feel like WandaVision kind of blew up? Like a lot of people were watching it, a lot of buzz were around it.
Yeah.
Do you think that Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to have that same quote-unquote success?
I do.
I don't know. I hope so. You can only hope that it's going to be as good or as big.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean,
Ernesto?
It might not be as big, but it'll still be the show everyone's talking about. For sure.
I think it'll be big. I think it'll be big, or it has potential to be bigger than WandaVision, just based off the success of it. And they see that they know what works. Like this is the first MCU limited series within the universe, and look how well it did. Like this is just the bottom. Like who knows how far they can go.
Yeah.
Like this is the Iron Man of the MCU for TV series.
Yeah, this is the launch of Phase 4. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, so I don't know. We're gonna get a long story. Like, maybe we'll get some clarification on Captain America. Like, maybe Chris Evans hopefully he makes a cameo. Probably not. But they're gonna talk about it. They're gonna at least talk about it. They're gonna talk about having the shield. They're probably gonna talk about like him retiring and what that means. And I don't know. It's gonna be great, but then I'm also excited for the stuff that we don't know is coming, because before WandaVision, we didn't know that we were gonna get Monica Rambeau and all that. And like that was a great surprise to be introduced into that series. So I feel like there's gonna be some of that within Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I feel like, in my opinion, I don't think that Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be as popular as WandaVision, because I feel like that it really, took stride. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like it's going to hit the same level. But as a Marvel fan, I'm just excited for it regardless, and I still feel like a lot of people are going to watch it, and it could intrigue people to be like, oh, I only got to wait a week, and then the next show's starting. I'll keep my subscription service. I'll stay along the Marvel train. But yeah, obviously there's a lot of questions in there of like how they're going to deal with Captain America and the Shield and everything, and I'm very excited to see what comes next. I just don't think it's going to be as popular because it's hard to, like, it's a completely different show. It's not a sitcom or anything like that. It is like, like Nick said, it's like a buddy cop film, a buddy cop series that will definitely have a different feel, and maybe a lot of people may not be into the action and that's involved with that, where WandaVision felt like it was more grounded than just like these big action pieces that I feel like Falcon and Winter Soldier might have. But that I feel like we're gonna get more maybe traditional Marvel in Falcon and Winter Soldier than whereas WandaVision, which it was so weird that you're just
So
like
different.
you wanted to see more.
Yeah.
It was so different. Yeah. But still equally excited to watch it nonetheless. Quickly, I want to mention, we kind of touched upon it a little bit, but like expectations. Do you feel like at any point of the show your expectation of anything ruined your viewing experience? Because this is what the week to week did. It heightened, instead of binging it, where you kind of just going it straight forward and kind of watching it in one big lump sum, we had time to think and theorize. And some people at the end of the day were furious that one of their theories didn't come true. So do you feel like that hindered on your viewing experience, Ernesto?
No, I don't think so, because I just think they did great storytelling. They made me think about the episode week to week to want to come up with theories, as opposed to just watching it and just accepting what's happening. But I mean, I think at the end, I was happy with how it ended. They told a great story from start to finish. Like, it was a deeper story than just two superheroes dealing with an issue.
Nick, what about you?
I don't think it hindered anything, like hindered my experience at all, but man, was I disappointed about the Evan Peters thing.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. But like, everyone kept saying, oh, Mephisto's going to show up. Oh, Nightmare's going to show up. And I was like, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, a lot of people are upset about the Mephisto thing. I never bought into it.
I didn't buy into it mostly because in Asia and like China specifically, you can't have depictions of like the devil or in media, and you just cut out like that huge demographic of people who can't see the show or the movie, and it's just like, why would they put in a character that's gonna cut out probably the largest portion of people, in the world.
Watch it, yeah.
To watch it, yeah.
So, but with that like even the Mephisto stuff that obviously we didn't lean into it, but obviously like you said the biggest letdown for you was Evan Peters.
Yeah, that was the biggest letdown. But like it didn't like I wasn't like. I was kind of bummed, but like it wasn't upsetting. It was like I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna stop watching this show.
Yeah,
because I've definitely seen like people like, oh, Marvel's ruining everything, and I'm just like, no, they're just doing things. But I think it does make me think about like going forward that maybe people should be I should be like maybe taking things at face value.
Yeah.
For what it is, because that's what it seemed like what happened with WandaVision. It's like they told you everything they wanted to tell you.
Right.
And it was right there. And like there was no. Yes, there were Easter eggs, but like there was nothing else beyond that,
Right. Like people assume that it was like a bigger force that was, in the mix. But in actuality, it's like, no, she's the villain. This is what's happening. Like, this is everything that we're putting in front of you is what we want to show you. We're not trying to, hide anything. Which is what I was kind of mentioning earlier, where like it felt like it was a mystery, but it really wasn't. Like, you go back and watch it from beginning to end without thinking of a mystery element and watching it like a linear-ish story.
Which I did last night.
Yeah. Oh, did you really?
I watched the whole show like in one sitting last night.
Oh, wow. So how was that for you now watching it, with knowing everything?
Like I said, it was like, oh, I should be taking things for, the face value of what they're giving me and not trying to put anything extra on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that a lot of people's downfall with the show, like, or maybe they weren't satisfied with it, was the fact that they didn't they were thinking too far into it, and when you should have just been thinking, just normal, just like watch the show that we put
just
in front of you.
watch the show, enjoy what's in front of you, because they're giving you everything.
Yeah.
They said this is Agatha, or this is they're like, this is Agatha Harkness with a name like Agnes. Agatha Harkness. Agnes. Yes. It was right there.
It's right there in the title.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me, and this has nothing to do with the show, but I think how things were handled, and I didn't really feed into all the theories, but there was one that really grind my gears, so to speak. And it was Paul Bettany. he said multiple times that there was a Luke Skywalker cameo coming into the mix, like huge level of a, like, here is, I was very excited to work with this person, all of this stuff. And he said it for weeks, that get ready for this big surprise cameo, only to just be himself playing White Vision is what he was referring to. Basically trolling the audience.
I thought that was amazing. I thought when I figured it out, I was like, oh, that's amazing. That's an amazing troll.
Yeah.
I was very disturbed by it, because obviously you're playing with expectations of the audience, and you're telling them one thing, but in actuality, obviously this wasn't true. And so, like, but I was like for me myself, I was building up to it, and like, this isn't a fan theory. This was like a person who was actually on the show
saying, hey, get ready for this. Yeah.
Right. And it's almost like, it's like, I guess in some degree, Ernesto, if I was telling you, like, hey, get ready for Avatar, it's gonna be big, knowing it's like, oh, they really screwed up the ending. But like, but it's like me knowingly telling you is like, this is like the best thing ever, and then me knowing it's like, it's really not.
Or
you know what I mean?
Or is it like you telling me Schitt's Creek's gonna be amazing, and then I watched it? Just kidding. Sorry, I had to throw it in there.
I don't know. Like, I feel like that's not cool to play with those expectations with your audience, because to me that that annoyed me a little bit, that it was coming from that. That's just am I in the minority here? Like, did that bother you as much, Nick or Ernesto?
I thought it, I really thought it was funny. I don't know. I was just like, because I for a long time I was like, oh, well, it's got to be Ian McKellen. Like, when I first heard that, I was like, oh, Ian McKellen, it's going to be Magneto's going to show up, the multiverse, because I was still on the multiverse kick, and I was just like, oh, Magneto's going to show up because Evan Peters is already here, so why not?
Right.
And then it was, oh, he's playing against himself, and that's the big reveal of that.
Yeah. What about you?
It was just like,
oh, sorry.
It was just like, it was just like we were saying earlier about expectations of, or that meme, that Captain America meme of like,
so you thought,
you
thought a theory came true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Captain America meme after Spider-Man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ernesto, where were you kind of lying on that?
I always take things at face value. It's like I try not to get my hopes up. The only thing I was a little upset about was the Doctor Strange thing, and I don't even remember where I heard it from now, with just that the last 3 episodes were going to be an hour long.
Yeah, I did hear that as well. Like, where did that come from to ever be even nowhere? That didn't bother me that much. I'm like, oh, whatever. I'll take.
I know where that came from.
Okay.
So Kevin Feige, in an interview, said that the whole of WandaVision was going to be 6 hours long, and people were calculating how much longer we have. Oh, we have 3 hours left. Well, clearly the last 3 episodes are going to be an hour each, and that's not how they cut it up.
All right. Well, that was a letdown. Not a huge one, but
it wasn't a huge letdown. But I also was like, I think people are, because I didn't hear it come from anywhere official. The last 3 episodes are going to be an hour long, and I was like, well, I wanted them to be an hour long for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
But that's not how it played out.
Yeah, I think that didn't bother me. Like I said, the Paul Bettany thing really was one that kind of irked me the most. But it's kind of like what we were saying. Expectations played a huge role into this, and I feel like we got a little bit of it when it came to The Mandalorian, because that was also week to week. But not a lot of like theories of like big things were surrounding that, in my opinion. But I feel like it really heightened when it came to WandaVision, because it felt like it was a mystery, and we feel like we needed to solve something as a collective group. So as much as I really enjoyed to like go on Facebook and like read about different things, I also part of me just felt like, I think moving forward, because it's been a while since this happened, of me like kind of reading into everything and expecting something, that moving forward, I think I'm just gonna, Nick, like you were saying, I'm just gonna take it face value. And not really, because it'll hinder on your viewing experience, and that's the whole thing about all of this. You want to have a good one, and you don't want like other people and theories and stuff like that to ruin it for you. Even though most of the theories didn't really bother me, and I actually really enjoyed how the series ended. But it definitely affected part of my viewing, which bothered me more, in a way. But yeah, so anyway, as we wrap up this conversation, Nick, your final thoughts on WandaVision as a whole.
As a whole, I thought it was great. I can't wait to see Falcon and Winter Soldier. I can't wait to see Loki. Like, I think Marvel knows what they're doing very well.
Are you happy that this is kind of maybe advertised as limited series, or do you see a season 2 to this?
I don't see a season 2. I know that they were maybe kicking out around the idea at maybe, but I mean, honestly, if we're gonna make anything off of WandaVision, give me my Jimmy Woo X-Files series. That's what I want.
All right, so Ernesto, final thoughts, and would you like to see a season 2 or stay a limited series?
No, keep it as a limited series, because if you try to do a season 2, it's just going to be like you're either going to rehash old stuff or it's going to end up being dragged out. So I'd rather them just leave it as a limited series and maybe do another series with another name that has some of the characters, but maybe not all of them.
Okay.
Like it has to make. If you're going to make something, just have it make sense within it. But WandaVision was great. I think it's a great kickoff to Phase 4. Showing that they can handle doing a very long form narrative in that way. Like, this is their first successful TV series. It just gets me excited for what's to come next with, Falcon and Winter Soldier and She-Hulk and Loki. Like, obviously each show is going to have a different feel to it, but it just seems like you're still going to get a lot within the universe within each show.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you guys are saying. That was a great first entry for Marvel Studios, to have their own TV series. I think I prefer, because the pandemic, we were supposed to get Falcon and Winter Soldier first and then WandaVision. Because of the pandemic, we ended up getting WandaVision first, and now we're getting Falcon and Winter Soldier shortly after. And I feel like that was a better move. I feel like for your first entry into the TV world, you brought us a show about television. Yeah. And you brought a lot of heart into it. And I think it was like a blessing in disguise, at least in the context of for the Marvel TV, Marvel Studios TV that they're developing. And if this is any testament of how we're going to move forward with now this, if anything, this just proves that Marvel can choose whatever they want to do, as far as this character is going to have their own movie and it's going to be great. This character is going to have their own TV series and it's going to be great. And if you watch all of it, you eventually see them intermingle with one another, and it's also going to be great. It's hard to imagine you got to keep up with all of this, but if you're keeping up with it, it's a fantastic ride to be on, in my opinion. So definitely a great first entry, and also looking forward to the future into the MCU. So as a Marvel fan, I'm not gonna, you really got to be bad for me to not like it as well. But yeah, anyway, that was our spoiler review of WandaVision, available on Disney+. Hey, thanks for listening to this edited version of our weekly podcast, Box Office Bingers. If you want to hear the full version of all of our episodes, which includes us discussing entertainment news, movie and TV reviews, guest interviews, and other things we've been watching, you can find us on wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you want more from us, be sure to hit that subscribe button and find us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, Facebook at boxofficebingers, email at boxofficebingers@gmail.com, and Matt, we're even on the TikTokies. We're on the TikTokies at Box Office Bingers. Once again, thanks for listening.